Hello and welcome again to episode 15 of Tudor Electric Football Box Reveal. Tonight we've got something different, something we have not seen on an episode of Box Reveal, something frankly that I usually try to avoid having happen. I bought a field. Now ordinarily I don't like buying fields for a couple of reasons. One is I don't need them. I have most of the fields in my collection already. Reason number two is that it costs a lot to get fields shipped. And three, they are often damaged in shipping. But tonight I couldn't help myself because it's this. That is a Super Bowl IV board. A great photo of Bill Brown on the front there being tackled by, I see a 6, maybe Buck Buchanan of the Chiefs. So I couldn't help it. I had to get the field. And I bought the field from an absolutely fantastic lady. And often, if you don't buy the field ends up on the curb and the thing goes in the garbage. And I really just did not want that to happen with this great piece of football and electric football history. So I bought the field. All right. Now the field itself, just looking it over, I see a lot of wear on these end rails. So this thing has been well loved. Something else that you see on these, you see the NFL logo on the end. The Super Bowl III set had the NFL and AFL letters on the end. This game definitely represents the merger. In fact, it represents the very last game that was ever played by the AFL. The 1970 season, the next fall, this game was played in January. The league was merged. Something else that you want to look for on this, I'm going to bring this over so we can take a look at this. You've got the team names in the end zones. This is the only game that Tudor ever made that had those team names in the end zones. There's the Vikings, great Viking logo. Helmets and the Super Bowl trophy at the 50-yard line. What a beautiful field. I do see one little problem down here. There's a little dinghy right there around the 20-yard line. Pretty good bump right there out of bounds. But generally, the field is pretty good. All right, now let's talk about the teams themselves. All right, I brought a nice white piece of paper that I'm going to set out here on the field. And we'll spread the teams out and take a look. All right, and we are going to start with the Super Bowl IV champions themselves, the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a kicker. This one's got a 14 on it. That's Fred Cox of the Vikings. These guys are Hog Leg figures. These are the later version of the Chiefs. They have the one white stripe on the sleeves. You'll find this set also in Hog Leg without the stripes on the sleeves. There's a base off of that guy. Guard. Quarterback. All right, am I getting them all on film here? I don't know. I'll push them in, but there they are. 11, Hog Leg Dark Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs. Something that I'm seeing on these that I do not like. See, this guy doesn't want to come off of here because, yep, they were glued. So somebody took some Elmer's glue or something and put it on the bottom of these. Yeah, because when you were little and you had these teams, I always had all of my teams. Each guy had his own base. Very important. It was like his own identity, how he ran. And so somebody glued these bases onto these guys so that the bases wouldn't get mixed up. But the bad part of that is that it does make the bottoms of them a little weird. and I don't like that. All right, next we've got Hog Leg White, Minnesota Vikings. They were the losing opponent to these Chiefs in the Super Bowl. See if these guys all drop into place here. So far, so good. So far, each team has had all 11 guys and all the arms. Very important. The guard. Some of the bases have fallen off of these Vikings, which is actually a good thing. All right. We'll pile extra bases. Look at these round pieces of foil. I bet you those were the footballs. And here's the kicker. And he's got a number 3 on him. So that's Jan Stenerud of the Chiefs. And this guy is Fred Cox of the Vikings. All right, our next team. I bought this set from a really nice lady. That was the other thing. I really have to mention that. One of the nicest things about buying these teams is that you meet some fantastic people doing this. You meet some idiots too, but 9 times out of 10 you meet some really, really nice people, and this was one of those times. This lady that I got these teams from was a great lady. And this team's got some issues. All right, there's a tackle. He's missing an arm. That wide receiver is good. There's a quarterback. That guy's missing an arm. Guards are good. That running back is good. All right, so we've got, let's see. Okay, that guy's missing an arm. So there's 3 guys missing arms, and then there's this guy. I'm going to move him really close so you can get a good look at him. Now, here's a little lesson I think a lot of us learned as kids. If you break a guy off the base, trying to melt his legs with a match or a lighter and then reapply him does not work. And it sure didn't work with this guy. They may have turned him into a very short guy. He's actually got both of the arms, but this guy is all messed up. Hog Leg White, Baltimore Colts. All right, one last team. Because we've got 3 things we're going to talk about tonight. One is the box itself, which we're doing right now. We're looking through these guys. And right now we're looking at a set of Hog Leg Dark Green Bay Packers. Broken arm on that guy. Second thing we're going to talk about are 620 fields themselves. I love 620 fields, or what I would call the 620 series of fields. This game, here's a guy who's really badly re-glued. He's all messed up. Can't even get him to stand up. He's so messed up. The 620 fields, this one has a designation. I think they put 633 or 630 on these Super Bowl fields. That guy's got a broken arm. But the original 620 fields, the first came out in 67 with big men figures, white browns, dark giants. I call it the grass field. It's got grass end zones. That field did make the transition to hog leg figures like these. And then in 1970, when the 2 leagues merged, they officially merged on paper in 1966. In 1970, that season, the fall of 1970, this game represents the Super Bowl that was played in January of 1970. When that happened, they disbanded the grass field game and they went to the blue end zone game. That game, most commonly, you're going to find it with the Cowboys and the Rams, but there are many, many different configurations. And it was considered the National Conference game rather than the NFL game. And the AFC, or American Conference version of the game, was pretty much the Browns versus everybody. Most commonly, you see it with the Jets. You see it a lot with the Bengals. White Browns, dark Jets, or dark Bengals. But there are many, many versions of that game out there. They all feature the Browns. I am a big fan of what I call the 620 series games. I have a real weakness for these games. So you have the grass field game, the blue end zone game, and then the yellow end zone game. I think that one is a 610, but I still call them the 620 series. And then you have the Super Bowl games. First was Super Bowl III with the Jets and the Dark Colts. Beautiful game. And that game had the AFL and the NFL and the end zones. And you saw the AFL and the NFL letters at the end rails. When they got to this game in 1970, the AFL business was gone. And this game was strictly an NFL game, post-merger. After that, the 620 series went on to represent further Super Bowls. Super Bowls 5, 6, and 7 all have unique 620 style games. Beautiful games. I love them. I have tried to have each one of them in my collection. They are all a little bit different. Each one of these big fields, they're almost like battleships. They're large, but they all have their own unique personality, and they're very, very cool. Last thing I want to talk about tonight, and I'll talk about it while I'm getting out these pieces, just so you can look at something while I'm blabbing away. In the bag here we've got, all right, there's our field goal posts. There's those old wraps that they used to have around the base of the field goal post. There's the yard markers, broken base, 4 sets of sheets, and these little toggles which go beneath the field and hold those field goal posts tightly in place. But the last thing I want to talk about tonight is Lamar Hunt. Lamar Hunt was the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs and the founder of the AFL. Now, when the AFL was founded in 1960, basically the story was this. Lamar Hunt wanted to buy an NFL franchise. There was only one NFL franchise that was for sale at the time. That was the Cardinals. Lamar Hunt went and met with the owner of the Cardinals, and the owner of the Cardinals said, "Why should I bother selling the team to you? I've got 10 people that want to buy this team." There's only 16 NFL teams. In fact, at that time, there were only 14 NFL teams. Why should I bother selling the team to you? And what Lamar Hunt did with that knowledge was he thought, well, if there's 10 people out there that want to buy an NFL franchise, I'm going to start my own league, which is exactly what he did. He rounded up those people who wanted to buy NFL franchises and couldn't, and started the AFL. He became their competitor. Now, what is interesting about this is that Lamar Hunt's AFL fought the NFL bitterly through the 60s. It caused player salaries to go through the roof because they were battling one another for talent coming out of the colleges. Finally, Lamar Hunt essentially won that fight in 1966 because he forced a merger between the two leagues. At that point, they put the drafts together, and the two teams didn't actually merge on the field other than Super Bowl III and Super Bowl IV until the 1970 season. And this had to have been the most gratifying day of Lamar Hunt's life, because not only on the last day of the NFL or the AFL did his Kansas City Chiefs win the championship and beat the NFL on the field just as he had beaten them off the field, but he had the additional satisfaction of beating the Minnesota Vikings in that game. And that had to have been, in particular, incredibly gratifying to Lamar Hunt. And the reason why is because the Minnesota Viking ownership was one of the original AFL franchises. The Vikings should have been an AFL team. They signed with the AFL, but then the NFL came along and offered the Minnesota ownership group an NFL franchise. So the Minnesota group reneged on the AFL and they joined the NFL. So on the last day of the AFL's existence, when they merged, Lamar Hunt not only won the championship, but he had the additional satisfaction of beating that Minnesota ownership group who had pulled out on him in the early days of the AFL. Now, with all that being said, I thank you very much for watching again one of my episodes of Box Reveal. I encourage you to watch the other episodes. And I want to also thank those who send comments and questions. I don't always get back to you in a timely fashion, but I sure do try my best, and I will get back to you. I get back to you every single comment and question, and I encourage you to continue to send them. I thank you for watching, and have a great night.